be talking about the Han Dynasty of China. We're going to see a great time of change and inventions and real growth of Chinese culture during this time. I hope you guys enjoy. Okay. The Han Dynasty. So one of the things we want to take away from this is that the Han Dynasty will be a time of change, a time of growth of trade. We're going to have the Silk Road, which will be such a huge thing in China. For the rest of its history, we're going to see achievements in arts and sciences. We probably won't get to there today, though. Alright, so we had legalism under Qin Shi Huangdi dominate China. He tried to stamp out Confucianism, but Confucianism would last. So right here we see that it's going to actually become the focal point of Chinese society. We have this idea that the family is the center of Chinese history, of society, We're going to see that fathers will be the head of the family, and we're going to see something called Filial Piety being a super important thing for anyone growing up. Filial Piety is obedience, devotion to your parents, respecting and obeying your grandparents. Now, the idea was children should be honoring their families. They need to be respectful, loving. And we're going to see that Confucianism is going to even wind up becoming the basis for civil service examinations. So how you put others in front of you will be something that's going to decide their jobs later on in Chinese history even. So here we just see an example of filial piety. See this beautiful artwork where we have a young child helping out their grandparents. How sweet. You should help out your grandparents, kids. Okay, now let's look at the family life in China. Unfortunately, during this period of Chinese history, women did not have many rights. They rarely got educations. They did not own property, and unfortunately, typically a son was valued more than a daughter. We're going to see that when a daughter was married, she would essentially almost leave her family and join her husband's family. Now, if you grew to be an older woman, you would achieve influence and respect within your family because of the Confucian ideas of respect for elders. We're going to have a very notable woman, Ban Zhou, who's going to be a scholar, a writer. She's going to write the Han history. And during this time, she is going to express her displeasure that women aren't getting equal respect, that wives should be being treated with the same respect, that women should be educated. She's very unique as she was one of the few educated women herself. Alright, now continuing to look at social structure. We see our pyramid with the emperor at the top, obviously, and he gets that mandate of heaven. Remember, the Chinese believe that the gods said who has the right to the rule. And because Emperor Qin Shi Huangdi and then his son did not rule with virtue, the Qin dynasty lost the mandate. So when the Han rebelled and overthrew the Qin dynasty, they were doing the will of the gods, they believed. Now, you're going to have upper class with them, and that's going to be a relatively small group, our officials, our nobles, the scholars. Finally, we're going to have our peasants, which is going to be the vast majority, probably 97 to 99% of the population, the people who are going to work in doing farming. Now, below our farmers are actually going to be our merchants. Now, this is something that might surprise you because merchants are often going to be way more wealthy than a farmer, but Confucius said that they only served themselves. They only went and made money. They didn't add anything to Chinese society, and therefore they were thought very lowly. Now, this goes back to what I was just saying. The society wasn't based on wealth. However, the emperor will be wealthy, the nobility will be wealthy. But it was about what they felt you could contribute to society. So I made a mistake earlier. This is 90% of the people were peasants. I apologize. Not 97 to 99. I was thinking of the artisans and merchants thrown in there as well. Now, peasants will have small houses, work very long hours, whereas the wealthy lived in huge houses. They'd have peasants working for them. Now, what is going to be probably strange for you to realize, however, is that the rich really didn't pay many taxes, whereas the poor paid the vast majority of taxes. One of the unfortunate things that would happen, too, is that the taxes were typically paid with the crops the farmers produced. But if there was bad weather or drought, flooding, depending on where you are in China, and your crops were destroyed, you were still expected to pay. So many peasants wound up actually going and selling their land, and then they'd be able to pay their debts, and then they'd be forced to become laborers once again for the wealthy, so still being put in a low position. Here we see the farming of rice. Rice is grown actually in water. Imagine spending 10, 12 hours a day bent over, pulling that up out, carrying these huge baskets full. Hard work. So, I want you thinking about what was life like for the Chinese peasants during the Han Society. Well, hopefully you said, it was hard! They worked a ton. They worked, and they didn't get anywhere. They sometimes had to sell their land, become laborers. It was not a great life for them. I think we're actually going to pause here for today. I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.